think we're already
I think
recording.
it already is. Yeah, don't
Yep.
unrecord it.
We usually do two,
I got it.
skipping over the announcements when we can. But anyway, Carl, we're so excited to have you here.
Well, I'm glad to finally be here and heard. Hey, I'm gonna move. I'm allowed to share, right? Obviously.
Yes,
Okay, let's go ahead and do that right away.
you have the power.
I have the power. And let's get rid of
Gorgeous.
this. And what are y'all seeing? I'm gonna move you guys over to this screen so I can actually see mine.
We're just seeing a list of mediocre photos.
Okay.
These are
Well,
fabulous.
I
My
grabbed these really quick because these are some low key things from the past. Obviously, can low key images work and be printed? Absolutely. I think what I want to start with is one, if you're watching, most likely it's because you scored something in 85 or higher, and that's phenomenal. Congratulations. And let's get it into a book or get it into printed form. That's what this is all about. And everything I'm about is to be able to make prints. It's actually kind of funny and sad at the same time that our world has become a package of let's photograph you and you get 100 images to look for through and you get 60 images retouched and it's $57 and this is ridiculous. But and then there's no prints and these people aren't going to have them for their kids and grandkids and for part of family history. And that's really what I started doing portrait work for, is so that we had family history in print form. So today is about making sure things can get printed and published and printed in a book. That's two different things. Book printing is, especially in low-key images, is a pain in our butt, plain and simple. And it's because back in the day when we did enlarge or we printed through a negative with light and onto paper and everything, we had a lot of space. We had a lot of latitude of information to work with. And if you all remember, how many people remember slide film? Remember the Kodachrome and yep, all right. So, and remember when we photographed, it finally came up. How about that? When we photographed from film and then went on to slides, you notice slides didn't have a whole lot of latitude. You needed to nail those exposures because it was what it is. That's it, right? And there was no custom work. There was no custom printing and burning and dodging and things like that. Well, the printing in a book is similar to that. Unfortunately, we're not making a book of only your images and only your black and white images and only your black and white images that are low key and created on Thursday at 2:00. Unfortunately, it's not the way it works. The book is a conglomerate, an average of all the things going into it, which is unfortunate for our sake as artists, because we all want our work to be the best possible it can be. And we want that too. The situation, however, is that efficiency-wise and reality-wise, it just doesn't work out very well to have every image look absolutely perfect, because that's what the printing is set up for. So today is more keyed towards low key because that's where most issues are. And so what I'm going to do is show you some helpful hints today that will show you what we can do to your finished images, because I'm sure a lot of you, like myself, don't want to go back and start from zero in your raw files on images you already competed with and won awards with and so on. So we'll show you a cheating step to make it the best it can be for the book. I'm going to also show you how to do it directly from a raw file from start to finish. And along the way, we're going to start off with a couple things here. For example, I kind of find it funny, actually, in some of the rules in IPC. and our rules too in ASP as well, that only burning and dodging is allowed. You can't do all this other stuff and everything. And I'm like, we can do a lot with burning and dodging. This is the same image, just using burning and dodging to create the finished piece. All I did is burn and dodge in this. There's no manipulation. There's no anything added. It's just using stuff that's there and burning and dodging. Burning and dodging, they don't specify in the rules. You can burn in light, you can, or in a dodge in light, you can burn in dark, you can burn in saturation, you can burn in a plug-in, you can hold things back. It's insane what you can do. And we used to do this in the darkroom too. It's just that we could never be nearly as precise as we can now. And especially with the advantage of being able to have levels and to take things away when you went too far. We're going to show you some examples of that too. But I wanted to show you this image in particular because you can see where it started on the left, what I did with it. And this is for another book that we're working on right now, that this is going to be in it. This is the file with their profile on it for printing. And look at the difference between this. On my screen, it looks ridiculous difference, right? Yours too? Nod? Okay. But this is how different our world is photographic from printing in the book. All right. So I'm not going to bore you with all that information and the different profiles that we're going to be assigning things and the conversions that we're going to be doing to get them into book language, because your committee is going to do that for you. So the ASP committee that's working on this book is going to take care of all of that, because it has to stay consistent from across the board. All right. And when they do the layouts, then that's going to be another step in the process of the book. That's all going to be consistent across the board. So you won't have to worry about that. What we're going to talk about today is the image that you give to the committee that is the best possible scenario, so that when they add this stuff for the book company, that you have the best possible situation on hand. Okay. So let's get rid of these. We use this as another example. You can see this is top is for photographic printing. Bottom is for the book printing. It's a huge difference. And then we show you one more example, because I want you to see, even with all the things that I'm going to show you today, this image here, you can see all kinds of detail in the dark shadow areas, in the highlights, in the midtones. Everything is holding true everywhere on my screen and on print from this file, photographic print from this file. Even tweaking further than I should, when we ran that profile for black and white for this book, look how much you lose in here. And the reason I'm showing this is because I just want you to all understand that no matter what we do, individual as members and as committee members, to prep this for the book and the book printing, it's never going to be absolutely perfect. It's not what you're going to see in the book is not going to hold everything. In a perfect world, it would, but we're not in a perfect world. All right. Everybody understand that? They're going to do their best they can. But in the end, it's going to look nice, but it's not going to look like a print you had done at your particular lab or off of your custom large format printer. Okay. So we all understand that we're on the same page. So I want to show you, we'll use this ugly guy here for an example. A cheating way of working on this is I'll bring our layers palette into here. If we make a new layer, okay, a duplicate layer, and normally I tell people don't do this because this is the wrong way to do it. But for our tweaks and our sake, for what we're trying to accomplish, this is a little bit of a shortcut. If you hit Apple L, or all you PC people, you can do your shortcuts to get to levels. but you'll see your levels palette come up. Okay, this graph is talking about, is seeing all the information in this rectangle we call a photograph. All right. And if you notice on this side over here, the highlight side, there's a gap between the right end of it and where the graph starts, where the information starts. All right. And that tells me it's beyond its gamut once I get into here. And you can see it, all the highlights in the sky back here in the storm. See how it all washes out as I slide it. But I know that this graph represents everything within this scene. And it's seeing all this highlight here as far as what's happening on this end of this graph. I know that if I want to get a little bit more detail in these areas here, I can slide it up to that information. See what's happening here in my skin? I'm seeing all the stubble. I can see all the hair into here, even the gray ones. Yes, I have gray hair all over the place. It's terrible. But I can see into that area, right? And now the problem is it already also messes up the highlights back over here. That's why I did a separate layer. So now I can say okay to this if I want to. I'm going to hide that layer option, click the layer mask. I can grab my brush, wait for reveal, and I can literally draw back whatever I want. Now, here's the problem. Let's do it at 100% just so we can see fast. So we're going to bring in this area right here, and be careful, don't do this. See how I color outside the lines? Remember back in kindergarten, they told us not to do that? Well, okay, it's all right. We can color outside the lines because we can hit the X key and come back and just clean that up. All right. Sometimes it's easier to do that than to sit here and try to get into this little tiny crevice right here to get the dark. Sometimes it's easier just to go over and then come back and oops, take care of it. All right. Now, this is one of the big flaws I see, though, is that a lot of times I'll see this around an image. And that's a mistake. Everybody see that ghosting? Okay. You want to make sure you take care of all that kind of stuff. The other thing I'm going to tell you is that this is a tweak for our book situation. But if you notice, my face got a lot more red as I did this. And the reason is in Photoshop, as cool as Photoshop is, anytime that you burn or dodge in Photoshop, all you're really doing, dodging, you're adding white on top of that image, on that file, and black, or burning, you're adding black on top of it. The problem with that is that it's not actual information. It's dark and it's light. That's it. And if you put too much black, introduce too much black under the colors you already have, it's going to contaminate those colors, right? So you're going to have a color shift, most likely in reds, right? So you don't want to go too far with it, but this is a way of getting things to be a little bit, we're not going to say this for right now, but it's a way of getting things into a little bit more printability for publishing in a book. This guy, for example, very similar. It's not bad, but I have a feeling, I know that when I go to have this go to print, that this area in his torso is going to just start going away too much. So I'm going to say to myself, self, let's fix that right now. Where did my layers go? Who stole my layers? I'll find out. Here we go. So I'm going to make a new layer. We're going to do our layers trick. And as you see, all this fog and clouds in area and highlights are way over here. But I can come up to this area, even into there, say, okay. And you can see before and after, look how much it changes within those dark areas, the shadow areas. But again, we only want it to help us for printing in those areas. So we're going to hide that, grab my brush. And by the way, on a brush, if you're burning and dodging, the hardness, you want it 0 for the most part. All right. And the reason being, unless you're in really fine detail area, unless you're like doing the edge of a roof line or text or something like that, that you're burning and dodging, we want a little bit of a gradation. We want a little bit of a feather in that, in your work. This is why in the next step that I'm going to show you from the raw, you'll see that we work in 16-bit. The reason we work in 16-bit, and we'll go through that in a moment here, is because if I have a big brush here and I do this, from the center working out and even beyond the edge of that brush is a gradient. And gradients are a change in information, a very gradual change in information. And on an 8-bit file, there isn't enough information to handle that gradation. And you'll end up with aberration, and sometimes it'll be like purple and green and magenta, like rainbow, where you'll have pixelation, kind of like garbly looking pixels and stuff like that. That's what we want to avoid. And that's why we work on 16-bit, because you have a lot more information within that file. But for our sake today, we're going to make believe. Let's go back. Let's throw you away. Start over. So I'm going to grab my levels. We'll tweak it a little bit for those shadows. I'm going to hide it. Grab my brush. And the thing that's cool is when you're working at layers is that, say I'm in 30% right now, right? If I overdo something somewhere, I can just hit this and say, I want to take back 70% of it and keep that highlight true. And you can work on that, right? So you can literally paint his abs back in if you wanted to. In the image I'm going to show you from scratch, we're going to actually paint in bark. I mean, it's amazing what you can work into. Different hairs for texture and so on and so forth. But when we're working in low key, those are the kind of situations that we're going to want to work into. We don't need to look at these. You get the idea, right? You get the picture, no pun intended, that we were going to work into shadow areas to make sure that those levels come up more than normal. Okay. Now, I will say this: when you save it for the book printing. Don't just hit save, do save as. So that file is for the book. Because if you hit save and later on you want to make a print of this photographic, it's going to look like crap. That's a technical term, by the way. But you don't want that, because what you did already was for print, all right, for photographic print. What we're trying to enlarge as far as information is for the book printing. All right, so save it as a file for what's going on to the ASP committee for the book. Make sense? All right, let's get out of here and do this for real. So if you're working for real, let me put you guys over here a minute. This is a senior from last week, so it's brand new. I haven't even gone through his images yet. I just grabbed one of them here so we can work on this today. But it is a low-key situation. These are a couple of images that we did there. Very, very, very low light. He's a archery hunter, so we were out and we found a row of pines, which is kind of cool. Now, very similar when you're working with low-key images. Even before you get to this part, think ahead when you're creating it. Before you press your button, there's a couple things you can do in camera before you get to this point to help you out as far as detail information as well. One is correct exposure. That goes without saying, right? Two, you photograph in RAW, so you have the ability to tweak things like we're going to do right here. And three, look what's behind your subjects. Because if you notice here, I left this little bit of highlight that's back over in this area right here, and I line it up against the shadow side of him. So there's there's a natural separation light back there compared to this dark shadow that's outlining the highlight of his face. So you are naturally giving yourself a little bit of separation and detail with just where you place your subject within that scene in relationship to the light and dark areas. That will take you a long way when you go through the whole entire process. All right. So this is straight out of camera. This is the way it's shot. But you know what? I think Yeah, it's sunset, but it's still a little bit too warm for me. We're gonna go to about 6,300 Kelvin, and it doesn't look all that too bad. Let's leave it just like this for an initial, my base custom print. If I was actually in the darkroom and we need a base exposure for this custom image, this is probably a good place to start. Okay, so I'm going to say export, and you can do this in Lightroom or Adobe Raw or Canon software or Fuji software, not Nikon software, because Nikon software is awful. Use Lightroom or Capture One. I prefer Capture One. But we're going to send it to a folder. Let's choose ASP low light demo. Let's put it in there. Okay. But I want TIFF 16-bit, 300 DPI, always working 300 DPI. That's what most of your labs are using. And if you have your own printer, your own large format printer, that's a good place to be anyway. And I want 100% of the file. And I'm going to say export. All right. And that's going to send it over that folder. But now here's the deal. Remember what we just did in levels, we can actually do with real information. All right. So I'm going to look at maybe changing the exposure, bring the exposure up just a little bit, maybe a quarter of a stop. Does a quarter of a stop make a difference? I don't know. You tell me. Just take it away. Let's put it back. Yeah, I think it does, especially in the shadows. And we're going to save that shadow just a little bit. And if I go too far, that's not what he wants for his story, right? He wants it to be dark. And I agree with him. I want it to be dark, but I also want it to be printable. So we're going to go up about 7%. And so now I'm going to make a new image, a new layer just for this area back in here, right? And I'm going to save that or export it. Apple D is a shortcut if you're in Capture One, or you can go through the problem of actually hitting export every time too, but I like to save some time. All right, so now here's the deal. His face is a little bit hot, okay? So because we can, let's come up here 100%, you can see just a little bit overexposed there. So let's bring the exposure down just a little bit, and I'm going to save that highlight, maybe about 25%. Okay. And I'm going to save that version of it. So I just saved 3 different files. We don't need this. Actually, we'll talk about this in a second too. If you notice here, just like I showed you before, this is something you can always do too in your images when you're all done, because this happens a lot. Even when I do a custom image, I'll open this graph and I'll see, wow, look at that. Look at how much space is in there. But look at the difference in vibrance that changes. Now, don't get into this because then you're going to eat up information. But if you just straight to the edge of it before printing, you actually add to your vibrance quite a bit. Don't save. All right. So let's open up. These are the 3 images that we just put in there. So this is our straight out of camera. This was our darker version for his face. This is the lighter area for the background. So we're going to start with that. I'm going to grab this image with my move tool, so V, or click on your move thing up here, grab onto it, drag over the top, hold your shift key in, let go of your mouse, and it's going to exactly register that and make a new layer. Okay. Just like we did with levels, I'm going to now hide that layer and I'm going to paint back what I want. The thing is, by doing it this way, you'll notice there's no color shift, especially when you hit skin, because it's actual information. It's not adding white on it. It's actually that exposure that's in the metadata of your raw file, right? So I'm going to grab my brush and we're going to speed this up quite a bit. We're going to just really, you can see how much it changes back here. Ooh, we're moving fast. And I get the whole area back here. When we hit a little bit there, I'm going to go on 20% and come up just a little bit on the shadow side of him. All right. And I'm going to put some of it back because I wanted a little bit vignetted from this side. So I'm going to go back to 20%. By the way, if you don't know this, I'm sure you guys all know this, but if you hit your 2, that's 20%, 6 is 60%, and so on and so forth to speed things up. So I'm going to go into here and just feather that area down just a little bit. And here, fantastic. All right, so now we just added quite a bit of before and after of information in that background area. Okay, Apple E merges it. If you really want to, here, watch this. Let's go back to this. Let's zero these out. Let's bring our exposure way up. Way up. We'll bring our shadow way up. Try that. Apple D. For all you painters out there, you can try this. I had to laugh. I was at one of Richard Sturtevant's programs, one of his in-studio things, and it was awesome. Just insanely cool, by the way. A great experience. But I learned something beyond what I came for. I learned that Richard and Sandra and Ben Shirk and like a bazillion other people, they don't need this picture. They could draw this on a blank sheet of canvas. All right. So some of the things that they were showing us that Richard was showing me, I'm like, oh, dude, we can get that information from over here. You don't have to draw it from scratch. It's actually here. All right. So, but understand it's a whole different talent level, what they're doing. And it's beautiful, but we can do it too with actual information. So I'm going to grab this really, 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 really light version. I'm going to drag it over the top. What do I do? Shift, right? Let go, it merges it. You can see the level or the layers right here. I'm going to hide it, Option, look in your layer mask. But I know Mom likes his hair. So I'm going to come way up in here. I'm going to grab my brush. Is anybody else upset at Photoshop for having to hit brush like 15,000 times just to turn it on from the magnifying glass? All right, so we're going to grab our brush here and let's go maybe at like 20%. And I can trace these highlights here. Let's go faster. Ooh, I went too far. Darn. I'm drawing outside the line again. But you can add some of his hair back in here. We didn't even have a light back there, did we? Or reflector. Add it right back in. But now look, they're very, very hard lines, right? So now I'm going to hit my X key and I go to like 10%, a bigger brush. And I'm just going to feather those ends in. Okay. Now, if you look before and after, that's a big change, right? We don't want to go that much. So here's a trick. Get down to somewhere like 50% so you can actually see it from a distance. When you go this, it's actually a little bit too much. But the cool thing is that it's on its own layer, right? So now you can take, besides just doing your brush at different opacities to customize it, now you can come back to your opacity and bring that down until you can eyeball it to be where you want it. Okay. And that does two things. One, it makes it look more realistic. And two, it's putting your artwork inside the image, not on top of it. Okay. It gives us some transparency to it. And now when you go to print in a book and or photographic, look at the difference of what you're going to see in that shadow area, right? So this is the key. Now you can do this in levels like I showed you at the beginning, but it's just not quite the same as when the information you're going to get from raw. If it's nondescript, non-detail areas, it works better with levels. I mean, it works okay with levels. But if you're just dealing with skin tone and things like that, then you definitely want to go back and start with the raw. Okay. So anyway, makes sense. So now I'm going to let's get rid of, if you, and oh, by the way, if you want to, let's put this layer back on. I'm going to hide it again. For fabric, okay, we just did his hair, but good golly, I mean, you can burn in anything here if you want. So let's go back to our brush. Let's say 10%. Let's enhance these wrinkles just a little bit, just to give a little bit more. Bring that up a little bit faster, just to bring that up just a little bit. Maybe this part of the camouflage. So you can see before and after, we're just adding detail back into those areas. Okay, these are all things, and look, we lost a little bit of the riser or the bow here. We're gonna bring that back in. A stabilizer will bring back up a little bit more onto the bottom side of that sight. And you can get carried away here. I mean, there's a point where you're like, just because we can doesn't mean we should, but at the same time, be the artist. One of my friends and mentors, Scotty Dupra, who now only paints, which and does amazing paintings, by the way. Check him out. He said it's our responsibility as an artist for everything that's in that rectangle. We are telling a story with what we show in that rectangle. And if there's anything in that rectangle that's not telling the story you want to get across, then it's actually hurting you, not helping you. Okay, so as an artist, you make the call because you're the author. And you can go in and make sure that everything is to what you want it to be. But remember, it is your responsibility. So if you go too far, then you know that maybe you want to pull back a little bit too. So let's add in our darker layer now. So again, how do I do this? We use our V shortcut for our move tool over the top, shift, let go. We're going to hide it, option, hit layer mask. And I'm using this just to come into his face just a little bit. So I'm going to show you another trick. I'm going to do this at 100%. I'm not going to keep it that way, but I'm going to come in all across his highlights. See, I got a little bit too far right there, but in his neck as well. Okay. And now I'm going to hit the X key, and I'm going to feather that shadow a little bit because it got a little bit dirty right there and right here. Now, the reason I did this at 100% is because I don't want it to be blotchy later, right? I'm going to show you the same thing for doing eyes in a second too. But the reason I did it is because now remember on this layer opacity, I can come down to where it's comfortable, but it'll all be uniform all the way across there. So now I'm not messing with what God gave us as far as light is concerned. I'm keeping it consistent, you know, equal across, and I can bring it down to wherever I want. And I'm going to say a little bit less than that, about there. All right. So now he kind of fits into the theme of things a little bit better as far as the Twilight hunting story is concerned, but this is a little bit too bright yet. So let's go back to this. Should have done it in that other step. I'm going to put that back on it, option layer mask. And now I'm just burning in the edges. So let's go about 30%. Let's come get this tree. Make a bigger brush, start feathering it in. We bring this area down here a little bit more. Some of that light was still hitting it pretty good because I want to see his face, the highlight on his face, to be brighter than anything else. Now, okay, say I'm happy with that. Apple E is merging it. That's your shortcut. Here's a trick. If you're ever wondering, get rid of this. Go away. Can already see one of the issues. But make a new layer, a duplicate layer. Go under filter, go under blur, go under Gaussian blur, and blur the crap out of it. Right? The reason I do this is because we're human, our eyes, it doesn't matter what detail is there, we go to the brightest spots, right? A lot of times you've heard people say, let's flip it over and see what stands out. Well, this is another version too. Just blur it completely, and now what's brighter? Look at this. I know that in my mind, I'm going to mess with other people's minds. Their mind is still going to see this area over here brighter than what this is. Okay. So you're actually taking away the story and just going to the base root of cognition by doing this. And I know that now I'm going to go back, make a darker version, and I'm going to burn these areas in just a little bit more so that his face is indeed the brightest part. Does that make sense? Okay. So when it comes right down to it, all we're doing, we're the world's greatest storytellers, right? Remember PPA used to have that campaign way back when? But we're the world's greatest storytellers by painting with light and by telling stories through our cameras. But in the end, when somebody is looking at your image that wasn't there when we created it, we want to tell the story in the most easy form possible. And that's one way of doing it. Okay. Find out what's the brightest and what people are going to be drawn to. All right. Do we have any questions at all about working with low key images before I get on? Yeah, Kenzie, or are you just waving at us? You're muted yet.
Oh, I can unmute. Sorry.
There you go.
Okay, so you said with duplicating the image and overlaying it, and you're basically, I learned about that for like light painting for like cars and stuff.
Yep.
But
Same
if you
thing.
have a composite and you're brushing back in, say if we have one for resonance, it's resonance, right? Okay.
And
So if
yeah.
we have one for resonance and it's a composite, are we still maintaining the color spectrum if we do it like this to lift shadows, or are we going to mess everything up?
Well, that's a really, really, really good question. And there's
Because
like three
it's not
different
raw.
answers. Three different answers I'm going to give you. Number one is it depends on where you're drawing from. So in your composite, where was, what, say, for example, you're doing a light painting, let's
Uh-huh.
like a John Hartman car or something.
Yeah.
If he's drawing from the same vehicle, but they're two different light sources, you're going to have issues. Okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I draw in
Light
my
source,
light.
it might not be exact the same color temperature. So
That's
you
okay.
have issues. So I actually got in trouble long time ago. I was teaching at Texas school, and the MAC group, one of the guys back in the day, he sat in as a subject, a model for us. And while he was there, I was talking to the class and I said, I don't calibrate my monitors.
Oh no.
I said, because at the time I was not doing composites. I white balance in camera and then leave it. If you do a custom white balance correctly in camera, it is really the same language as your labs use. It's a very, very accurate. The problem is, to your question, now we're doing composites and we're introducing new colors in painting and different plugins and everything else. So now, yes, it is absolutely essential that we calibrate our monitors
Mm-hmm.
and that by eye we can
Identify the color range. Yeah.
compare. Yes, absolutely. Because we are introducing new things to it. And in color painting, light painting, we're introducing a lot of different situations,
Mm-hmm.
not just color temperature, but quality of light. Maybe it's reflecting off of something else, so it's giving us a reflection. I mean, there's a lot of different things at play. So you definitely want to make sure that your monitor is calibrated so that all the things that you're doing, you can eyeball as an artist and make sure that it's all merging correctly. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That is a great, great question. In fact, we're hosting, I talked to one of the new investors of Mac Group a couple weeks ago, and she is going to do a webinar for us on color theory, color balance, color correction, color devices, color everything. I'll let you all know when it's going to happen. It'll probably happen in the beginning of January. But this woman knows her stuff. I mean, it's crazy. And Mac Group now took over the devices for X-Rite. And so the devices that we use for monitor calibration are actually devices from Mac Group, or wherever they want to call themselves now. Maybe I said too much. You didn't hear that. Anyway.
So Carl,
Yeah.
first off, imaging is the very beginning of January, so be sure.
Yep, we'll work around it.
Okay. Secondly, we have a couple of questions in the chat box. Nancy Bassman asked, with levels, can you change the mode to luminosity to avoid the color shift?
It's the same exact thing. Whether you use levels, multiply, dodge, it does not matter what you do. You're only adding white.
Okay.
Screen is the same thing.
And Mary Ann,
Luminosity will have sorry, I'm going to jump in. Luminosity has a little tiny color shift on the gradient.
Yep.
So in the center, it'll be okay, but along the edge of your brush, whoever asked that, it'll color shift. Mine
For
always goes
certain.
to yellow.
Yeah.
and then also
Well,
Mary Ann Keeling wanted to know, she said, you generally always work in Photoshop with 300 DPI TIFFs as opposed to 16-bit PSDs?
no. They're 300 DPI. That's dots per inch. 16-bit TIFF is the mode. So yes, you want to be in a 16-bit TIFF and a 300 DPI.
Okay. Good
By
deal.
the way, I'm glad you said that, because I was going to show you something here. I don't remember what it was, but it doesn't matter.
Carl, I'm sorry. It's me. I'm the one that asked the question.
That's
Mary Ann
okay.
Keeling here. So, and you feel that TIFFs are, the better file overall as opposed to PSDs working in Photoshop.
PSD is really kind of the same. I mean, it's the same uncompressed file,
Okay,
as long as
that
you're
was my
working in
question.
16-bit.
Yes,
Okay.
that was my
16-bit is the
question.
key.
Yeah.
Yep,
Okay.
absolutely.
Yep.
So
Are
it's
you
really it's essentially the same thing.
are you
Okay.
printing
That being
in TIFF?
said, what's that?
Are you printing in TIFF when you send it in?
Nobody will print TIFF for you. Well,
Okay.
till I almost have a couple people convinced.
They
Now,
maintain more
yeah,
info, but I didn't
yeah.
know that that was a possibility.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. When I have my printer, I print everything in 16-bit.
Yeah.
And because it's so, okay, let's go on another rabbit hole. Inkjet, your large format printers that a bunch of us have, and now mine is gone because I'm moving again. Actually, at the moment, we are moving in between this. But when I print on my large format, one, I keep it in 16-bit TIFF, and two, I start and continue in Adobe 98 workspace, because there's a lot more information there and a lot more color information there. And it's a significant difference as far as what you get off your printer from that compared to sRGB in 8-bit from photographic silver halide. It's just the limitations. So the lab I'm working with is I'm almost got them convinced that once we pursue another venture in inkjet work, that we'll be taking 16-bit TIFF. So
And which lab is that, Carl?
we'll talk later. So
Okay.
it's just not the place for that.
Okay.
But anyway, the key though is this: when you're working on, because I'm glad you asked that question, Marianne, because I would have forgot. When you're done doing all your work, make sure, because I get people all the time, students come all the time, I can't make it a JPEG. I can't make it a JPEG. You're right, you can't. Unless you come back up here under mode and put it back to an 8-bit first. Okay, so because if you do it otherwise, let's shift back. If you try to save as, it's gonna, come on. It'll give you a version. Oh, now it's gonna, oh, because I already changed it. There we go. It would only give you a JPEG 2000 option. It won't give you the JPEG option. You need to convert back to an 8-bit before you save to JPEGs, because JPEGs are only an 8-bit. Make sense? I see your mouth wide open, Kenzie. Go for it.
Why? Wait, hold on. Brain.
Yeah,
You're taking away the majority of your color then if you're converting it back down to an 8-bit, you're
right.
condensing to save as a JPEG, but then you're sending the JPEG to print for like clients?
Yeah, no lab prints in 16-bit. They only print in 8-bit.
Okay, well then let me ask a question because I have no shame.
Yep, go
So
for it.
you're exporting. So what is the difference of exporting versus just saving in that if I'm working in a 16-bit workspace and then I'm
Correct.
saving that as a
Mhm.
JPEG, what if you're exporting?
I'm not exporting it. I'm saving it as a 8-bit JPEG for printing.
Okay, earlier you were
For
exporting when you were just doing your layers to add on to the original RAW.
that, I was saving as I went, yes. But it was exported from your RAW to a
Okay,
16-bit TIFF. So all
okay.
these files that, don't save this now. Let's go back. All these files that came in from my RAW, from
RTIFF.
capture, yep,
Yeah.
those are all 16-bit TIFFs. Okay. And I just kept layering one on top of the other and keeping what I wanted, painting back what I wanted, disregarding what I didn't.
Ah, okay.
Okay. But when you're done with that, if you're going to photographic paper to printing,
Yeah.
that has to be submitted as a JPEG at 8-bit.
Okay.
Nobody prints in 16-bit yet.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yep, go for it,
This
Lori.
is where I get lost in every
Yep.
conversation about editing and printing in 16 versus 8-bit.
Yes.
So what is the purpose of editing in 16-bit if you're going to have to condense it all back down to 8? Because you're seeing more detail than what is actually going to, and to me, that this is where I just get lost in this whole
I'll show
discussion.
you an example.
My brain says it's RAW versus JPEG, Lori. Like if you're
O-
shooting in RAW versus shooting JPEG.
That's a good example.
That's how my
Okay,
JPEG is
brain
just an
grasped it.
okay,
average. A
okay,
JPEG, if you're photographing in JPEG, it's just an average of what your exposure was. It isn't your
right.
actual exposure. Okay. So here's an example. This is an 8-bit canvas. Okay.
Mhm.
300 DPI 8-bit canvas. If I grabbed, here we go, a black brush and I did this. Okay. When I go in to these areas here, when I look at it on a print, you're going to see all kinds of weird pixelation transition in here.
Mhm.
If I did this on a 16-bit, you're not going to see any of that at all. All right. Here's the deal. And this is the part that I can't wrap my head around either. So I just go with it because it works. All right. Why then, when we change it from 16-bit to TIFF, are we okay? Or to JPEG, are we okay? Because Photoshop and the files don't know that we did anything. It doesn't know at all. It just knows that this color, these pixels, these numbers, as far as the pixels are concerned, are already there. So the ones and zeros are already there. Didn't matter that we put them there or that they were there when we pressed the button on the camera. Doesn't matter. All it knows is that that information is all right there. And when we convert it to JPEG, it's still there. As opposed to starting in JPEG and trying to do a gradation, and you have all kinds of issues. I see it mostly in skies, right? So people try to burn in the sky and you'll see that wavy stuff going on. Well, that's a gradation, and it's gonna have all kinds, because our digital files can't handle the transitions from real information to zero information. It just doesn't do it well, not like what film did, which is really unfortunate.
So
um,
can you say converting from a 16-bit TIFF or PSB or whatever you're working on to an
mhm.
8-bit, it's like a wet canvas because it holds the information.
It
It's
holds that
just a
information. You're not
different
doing
bit
a
level.
gradation more. It's that information. It's just already there.
So,
So
so then when you convert it down to the 8-bit, it doesn't degrade.
It's a wet canvas,
Okay.
yep. To
smaller
me,
wet
it still
canvas.
seems like it does. Honestly, I can still see a difference. So does it make it a different? Yeah, it does. It does change it. There's no question. I mean, a 16-bit is still way more information, but we can't print from it unless you have your large format printer and you're doing it yourself, right? So the difference from working on an 8-bit compared to working on a 16-bit and changing it back is significant. So it's worth the effort to do it, I guess is what I'm getting at.
So you can print 16-bit TIFF if you have a large printer?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I printed everything. Everything I printed on my large format is
I'm
16
I'm
bit.
gonna bug you then. How do you check if your printer is doing that?
You tell it to.
Okay, well, this is not my forte, Carl. I'm gonna get a
Yeah.
hold of you after this then.
So no, yeah, no, right in the software, right in the. Are you on Canon or?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can set it up that way. I
Okay.
print in 16 bit.
Okay.
Yep.
So Carl,
Mhm.
I've got a question. I want to take this back to the book. You said something about ASP people are going to modify these prints to keep them consistent.
No. They're going to add the profile that the book company uses. Okay, because the book company supplies us with the profile. So here's what's going to happen once your files are there. Before it can get into the book, before it can go to print, we have to assign it their profile, their printing profile that they supplied to us. Okay. So like we use sRGB most of the time, or Pro sRGB, whatever for your lab, or Adobe 98 if you want to keep a lot of color and you're doing your own printing. Well, book companies have their own profile. And so they're going to give us this. They also print in CMYK, not RGB. So what's going to happen is that they're going to do the conversions to CMYK, and then we're going to add their profile that they use for printing, and then across the board. That way, everything stays to what they need for their book printing, and everybody did it in the same order because we're doing it.
Okay, so then we need to go back to the original
No,
16-bit to
you
do
don't
all
have
these
to.
modifications.
Like I showed you in the originals. Like, let's grab this one again, for example. This image right here is a finished image. I'm not going back to the raw file to do. I'm sorry, guys, but I'm not going back for a book. I'm not going to go back. It's not that important to me to go back and change everything and start from scratch. So I know that if I wanted to make sure that the wrinkles in his knuckles stayed here, I can make a duplicate layer and I can do this. And even though I'm getting into the information in the graph, I know that I can just paint a little bit in these areas to make sure that that is visible when we print it in the book. All right. So would I do that for photographic? No. But for in a book, if I want to see more detail in those shadow areas, you got to bring the levels up somehow, because they're just going to go away. They're just going to be gone. The other thing that we're going to do, by the way, is we're going to add a whole bunch of sharpening to all your images, and it scares the crap out of me to hear that. But that's the printing world, the book printing world, and it's ridiculous amounts in our, compared to what we're used to hearing. But again, it's trying to make our photographic work look like our photographic work, but in a printed book.
Right. But again, now, are you making the adjustments to the 4,000 pixel across image you sent into competition, or are you going back to the original size?
That's up to you as a maker. I'm not going to do it as a maker. If my image was chosen to be in the book, I'm not going to spend the time to go do it. It's not that important to me.
So remember, the book is an 8x8 book, and we have one image
Per page.
per page. So
just-
just remember that it's not a huge file. So we want the best product possible, but don't overthink this and spend a huge amount of time re-editing images. Just
Exactly.
take a look at what scored 85 or above in your past results for ASP, and that's what's going to be in the book. And we're going to, after this is on YouTube, I'm going to send another email with a request link so you can give us your image, again, if that's what you choose, because you have three options. You can leave the image as is. You can provide a new JPEG file that's 4,000 pixels on the long edge, or you can ask us to just do some quick edits to it, to the JPEG that we have.
Okay, that makes sense. And you are preserving the treatment, the frame.
Yes.
That all stays the same. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
it's
sorry, I just wanted to say, hey, all my residents, exhibition people, we are coordinating with Thea and her group with IOD. So we'll be, we're basically going along the same lines. We publish from the same company. And so everything will apply for you as well. So just want to let you know we're coordinating with them. So
yeah, we're using the same person to lay out both books. So everything is going to use the same process.
Carl, you said you were going to convert to the profile. Can I get a copy of the profile so I can see if there's any color shift that I need to adjust?
Don't do that. And the reason for it is, the reason I say that, I'll show you, like I started, let me grab. I'll use this one. From what I've been told, in fact, they were calling while we were doing this. I saw the call come through, so I got to check on it. But the image on the left is using their book's color profile for their.
Can you share your screen, Carl?
Oh,
He
Or
is
not?
sharing his screen.
Yes, yeah,
See it.
We
see it yet?
over here.
yeah, we see it.
Oh, okay. I clicked it off. Okay, thank you.
Way to go, Tom. Hey, good to see you again,
I'm
man.
known for that. Yeah.
So the image on the left is after putting their profile on it. All right. And it's, to me, it's way oversaturated. It's way red. And yet when it's done printing, it's going to look closer to what this is. All right. So the reason I say you can get it, you can download it from their book site if you want, but ignore it. Don't go by what it looks like on your screen, because it's not what, I mean, we put the profile on it and I'm just going to ignore what it looks like, because I know that when the printing is done, it's going to look more like this. Right. The other thing you want to understand too, by the way, and I just thought of this. The other reason why we want the committee to do the change of CMYK is because if you change this to CMYK, you can't change it back. It will not change back to RG. You can do it. It'll do it, but it'll look awful, and you'll never get your original color back.
Information's gone.
It's gone. It's gone. All right.
Why?
So
Good to
this is
know.
why we're safer to have the committee just do all the steps all at once, all the way across the board, and let everything be the same. That being said, go ahead and do the tweaks like I showed you, bringing the shadow levels up just a little bit more. and really that's the thing. I mean, right, we always teach our new students, right, that, okay, a key light is to create shape and form. A fill light is to bring the shadows up to a relationship that's printable in comparison to the highlights. In whatever dramatic thought process that we have as an artist, right? Well, we're doing the same thing here. We're just bringing the shadows to a print so that everything is printable on a book printing compared to a photographic printing. Is that an analogy that makes sense?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. And I love that these books are going to be consistent across the board, Resonance and IOD as well. So that when you guys have them all stacked up on your bookshelf, they're going to look so pretty.
That is cool. I think it's really awesome you guys are doing this. One of these days I'm going to actually enter something again.
Well, I feel like I've just had a complete in-depth Photoshop lesson.
Well, it's not Photoshop, it's darkroom work. It's just we're using Photoshop to do it.
Yep. Yeah.
But, and that's the other thing too, by the way. Let's just grab an image. Don't matter which one. What do we have? Really? Let's grab this guy.
32 at one time.
If you wanted to really go crazy, you know, we have all these different filter sets and everything. So for you guys that use like Nick or DxO or things like that, I was part of their team way back when, and yet I think it's because they like me and they dislike me all at the same time because I didn't do things the way that they created their software for. And the reason is that, say for example, let's bring out colorize. Let's do that. I'm going to add a bunch of saturation here. So this is a filter, right? And I'm going to grab, let's say, oops. Let's bring more yellow. Here we go. Okay. Ooh, that's really going to be yellow. Okay, so it's going to create that filter on a new layer. And we're doing the same thing that we did before. We're just burning and dodging. So this isn't Photoshop. This is just darkroom work. Back the last enlarger that I owned was the Zone 4 or whatever the zone system black white enlarger was for. But you could dial in your contrast level. Remember poly contrast filters? Instead of putting the filter in, you could dial it in on a rheostat so that it was exactly precisely where you wanted it, analog form. And so you can, in the process of while exposing, you could change that contrast level and actually burn in a different contrast in different areas within that that image on the fly in black and white. And that was really kind of a cool system. But here, all we're doing is burning and dodging. Let's add a little bit more glow to that area here. Ooh, look at that. And if you wanted to, you can change it to the color mode in here. That might be more fun. Before and after. I mean, you're just doing the same thing over and over and over again. Just different versions of it. But you got to know that Photoshop is a tool, but it's not a resurrection tool.
Can be.
Yeah, it can be handy. So get it right in camera as much as you can and then use it to enhance. So anyway, any other questions?
Carl,
Christy,
Paintbrush.
and Dennis, if Dennis is still on, there's a guy you're talking about, the bear behind you, Christy.
Yes.
All right, look up the comedian Greg Warren. He just did a routine on bear spray. And to make sure people understand, because it wasn't obvious by the instructions that it's not like insect repellent.
Oh my God.
Oh no! He sprayed it on himself?
Look it up. It's hilarious. But yeah, he's a
Oh
funny guy.
no!
But Anyway, on that party note, if there's any other questions? Otherwise, I gotta get flying here.
Thank you
for
so
doing
much,
this for
Carl.
us. We appreciate
You're
it, Carl.
welcome.
Yeah,
By
thanks.
the way,
Thanks,
if any of
Carl.
you, is worried about your image, just contact me, send it over. I'll look at it and we can work through it together and make sure it's exactly what you want. I got no problem with that.
Oh, that's
So,
so kind.
just let me know.
So kind.
We can help you out.
Thanks.
Thank you, thank you.
You're welcome.
At your time, this is recorded. It will be on the public side of our YouTube channel so that you can go check that out. I'm actually going to render it and put it up there now. I'm going to pause the recording.